How much does personal security cost when you have worldwide fame, multi-million-dollar contracts, and a life in the crosshairs of cameras? In the world of big money, sometimes just 1 second of chaos is enough, and the price of a mistake becomes not just high, but obscenely expensive. That's why behind the backs of celebrities stand people who are rarely shown in close-up: bodyguards. Not guys for show, but a blend of strength, discipline, and cold strategy. Today, the 20 most famous, largest, and strongest bodyguards and security teams who protect artists, athletes, and billionaires. If this is your first time on the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like the video. Welcome to the channel for the wealthiest.
Luxury life.
Number 20. The Rock behind Drake. When people think of Drake, they see a superstar, a hitmaker, a man who can turn a stadium into his personal living room. But almost always next to him is his head of security, a man over 2 meters tall, with the look of someone who knows how to turn off someone else's enthusiasm with just one glance. His job isn't to throw hands, his job is to prevent a fight from even starting. Such a figure works like a no-entry sign. Most problems end before the first step. He has remained by Drake's side for years, on tours, at private events, in arenas where the crowd roars so loud the air seems to vibrate. You might have seen him at major sporting events, up to high-profile games and playoffs where cameras catch every move. And yes, the bodyguard here isn't just muscle. In the world of celebrities, a bodyguard often becomes a person of trust, someone who knows where to go, when not to go, and where trouble smells before it even happens. Number 19. Floyd Mayweather's Great Wall. If security were architecture, Mayweather wouldn't have security, he'd have fortification. His team even earned a nickname like the Great Wall, because these guys look like they could block the entrance to an airport by themselves. Several large men, each with experience, each with their own style. One works as a radar, another as a shield, another as crowd control. In their world, everything is simple. Floyd has too much attention, too much money swirling around, too many people who want to be close at any cost. There have been moments when security became the main character in the frame. Press conferences, high-profile events, heated crowds. There, a bodyguard isn't a hero. He is the brake that prevents the situation from accelerating into a crash. Number 18. Cristiano Ronaldo and the Special Forces twins. Ronaldo isn't just a footballer, he is an empire where every exit from a car is like a mini premiere, and his security matches that. Two twin brothers, former elite unit operatives, with a military background and a discipline you can't buy for money, you can only live it. Their strength isn't in looking scary. On the contrary, they know how to blend into a crowd. A suit, a calm face, no unnecessary movements. But inside, it's a readiness 24/7 mode. Such men don't argue or pose. They simply close the space around their client so no one even understands how it happened. There have been high-profile episodes discussed by the media. For example, the story with an expensive car and an accident while on vacation. But even such scandalous details don't change the essence. If you're protecting a man whose image is worth hundreds of millions, you're protecting not just his body, you're protecting an asset that feeds a huge system. Contracts, brands, projects, real estate, family. Number 17. Kendrick Lamar's Giant. There are bodyguards who look like regular guys in suits, and then there are those next to whom even a tall person starts to seem compact. Kendrick's bodyguard is from the second category, a 2-meter tall giant who instantly steals attention in any shot. At one point, photos from tours went viral, the relatively small Kendrick and this monolith next to him, like a visual metaphor for security. The internet, of course, did its thing. Memes, comparisons, jokes, but for the artist, it's no joke. It's insurance against chaos. He worked security for artists when their popularity was rising, and with it, the temperature of the crowd. And the most interesting thing, many such bodyguards later transition into media or film, because a bodyguard's appearance is already a ready-made image, a person you trust from the first second. Number 16. The iron discipline of Justin Bieber's security. For Bieber, security isn't one biggest guy. It's a coordinated system that works like a special ops team, fast, quiet, and according to plan. Their names are rarely heard, because a good bodyguard becomes famous only in one case, when something goes wrong. And here, the goal is the opposite, so that no one even understands how exactly he was extracted from the crowd. They were there on the early tours and during the most nerve-wracking periods when too much unwanted attention gathers around a star. In such moments, security isn't about pushing a fan away, but about maintaining a safety corridor. Paparazzi, flashes, screams, attempts to break through. All of that can turn into a crush in seconds. Sometimes footage spread worldwide. For example, bodyguards literally carrying the artist through a difficult section of the route where walking is impossible. It looks funny, but the meaning is simple. A celebrity's life is a route of risk points, and security either bypasses or neutralizes those points. Number 15. Conor McGregor and the security that holds back chaos. McGregor is a man who can turn any appearance into a show, and where there's a show, there's risk. The crowd overheats, fans push closer, emotions boil over. That's why next to him is security that acts firmly but without fuss. Two key figures, like two modes. One works as a shield in the crowd, the second as the route brain, planning movements, timing, and where exactly the crowd might break loose. This is especially noticeable when tension is at its peak. Press conferences, tournaments, major public appearances. There, one wrong step and a chain reaction starts. Security in such situations doesn't intervene, it prevents things from starting. Number 14. Mark Zuckerberg. Security of technological fortress level. When you run a company on the scale of Meta, you aren't just rich. You are a symbol, and symbols often become targets. Therefore, Zuckerberg's security isn't a guard at the door. It's a system where people, technology, and protocols work together. The names of team members are usually not disclosed, and that's understandable. Privacy is part of the strategy here, but what is known is different. Security at this level costs as much as a good business. Money goes to personnel, logistics, equipment, home protection, route, and event security. This isn't overkill. It's the new normal for people living under constant scrutiny. What distinguishes such security? Technology, access control, encrypted communication, situational analysis, smart cameras, constant perimeter monitoring, and all of it not for effect, but to see a threat before it becomes a threat. Number 13. Mr. Europe in the service of Adele. Sometimes a bodyguard becomes almost as recognizable a figure as the artist, simply because he looks like a character from a movie. Adele had just such a case, almost 2 meters tall, an athletic build, striking looks, and the absolute calm of a man who has seen enough to never panic. But behind the impressive picture is a real biography. Police service, years of experience where you learn not to be strong, but to be precise.
In show business, this is doubly important. A fan might not be dangerous, but a crowd becomes dangerous on its own. One scream, one lunge, one crush, and that's it. When Adele tours, it's not just fans swirling around her, but a giant machine. Tickets, contracts, venue security, logistics, and the bodyguard is the fulcrum in this system. His task is to ensure the singer can go out to people, sing, smile, and disappear back into the quiet zone without turning every step into a lottery. Number 12. Beyonce. Security on the scale of a military operation. If you think a star's security is a couple of guys with earpieces, then for Beyonce, that sounds like a joke. Her security is an entire structure, sometimes feeling more like a headquarters than bodyguards. On tours and at major performances, everything works on the principle. Everyone knows their sector. Everyone knows what to do if the situation changes in seconds. Sometimes viewers see brief flashes of this system. A bodyguard goes viral because of a reaction, a smile, a look, and the internet instantly turns him into a meme. But in reality, these people live in a mode. No emotions, no unnecessary movements, only control. The team's history has had tense episodes, aggressive fans, crowds, moments on the edge, and there, it's not strength that decides, but the right corridor, the right speed, the right distance. Because Beyonce isn't just an artist, she is a multi-million-dollar brand, and security protects not only the person, but the entire perimeter where money circulates: family, team, business, reputation. Number 11. Salman Khan, the bodyguard as a family member. In Bollywood, security is sometimes more important than in Hollywood, simply due to the scale of crowds and the nature of threats. Salman Khan is one of those who has long lived in a reality where security isn't an optional item, but a daily necessity. His bodyguard is a legendary figure who has been by his side for decades.
This is no longer an employee, but a person who goes through everything with the artist. Shootings, premieres, crowds at the entrance, trips, events where thousands of people are ready to break through just to get a second closer. At some point, security turns into its own business, a separate company, separate contracts, protecting other stars. And that's logical. The name of a bodyguard who has maintained order around a superstar for decades also becomes capital. Number 10. 6ix9ine. Security in the style of living with heightened risk. There are celebrities whose security is a standard protocol, and then there are those whose life is a constant zone of turbulence. 6ix9ine belongs to the second category, and that's why next to him, it's often not one bodyguard, but a team that works as if every day could be the day. Here, the style is different, less publicity, more toughness, more demonstrative control. In some stories surrounding his security, scandals have figured, situations where methods seemed aggressive, and that's precisely a sign of a world where a person lives not as a pop star, but as a target. Yes, this isn't about glamour, but it is about the price. When reputation itself attracts conflict, security becomes the most expensive item for survival, not an ornament, but a necessity. Number 9. Johnny Depp, the invisible fortress around a star. Depp's security doesn't work for show. On the contrary, the less you see it, the better it performs, especially during periods when there's a storm around the artist. Court cases, the press, crowds outside buildings, cameras ready to catch any emotion. In such moments, bodyguards become not just protection from fans, they become protection from chaos. The main skill here is control of space, where to stop, how to exit, where to turn, where to place a living wall so the crowd doesn't close in. And the most valuable thing? Calmness. Because when dozens of people are screaming and shoving around, the calm of one professional can keep the situation from exploding. Sometimes such teams even participate in court proceedings as witnesses or escorts, because security in high-profile stories becomes part of the official reality, not a behind-the-scenes matter. Number 8. Post Malone, security that doesn't like the limelight. Post Malone's security team almost always stays in the shadows. Their names don't circulate in the news, and that's intentional. It's a low-profile format. Don't attract attention, don't turn protection into a show, but be ready for any scenario, from a rapid evacuation to crowd control at a festival. Their work isn't just concerts, it's flights, unexpected stops, logistics in different countries, places where fans can appear suddenly and in large numbers. In such conditions, security is like insurance for a luxury car. You don't think about it every day until a moment happens when without it, everything falls apart. Number 7. Kim Kardashian, elite security and a multi-million-dollar lesson. After the high-profile Paris robbery in 2016, involving jewelry worth huge sums, Kim essentially rebuilt her security from scratch, and then began a reality of luxury fortress level, round-the-clock security, technical systems, strict routes, access control, precise work in public places. The peculiarity of this story is that security became not just physical protection, but a lifestyle, where every detail, from the hotel to walking the red carpet, is calculated in advance. At major events, security works so the star can walk beautifully, calmly, confidently, while the crowd doesn't turn into a threat. Because for such people, security isn't about keeping the dress clean. It's a question of whether you'll return home without a story that costs millions and shatters trust forever. Number 6. Sylvester Stallone, security at the Rambo in the parking lot level. Stallone is a legend, and even at 79, he remains a man recognized instantly, which means there's always a crowd around him. Fans, cameras, random passersby who suddenly decide they have a right to a selfie, and that's when security kicks in. Not for show, but as a strict filter separating polite people from those who can turn the situation into a crush in a second. Little is usually known about such bodyguards, and that's right. Most often, they are former military and tactical specialists who know the main thing: don't allow improvisation. Routes, perimeter, corridors, emergency exits, everything so the actor can live and work, not fight through chaos every time he steps out of a car. They say such teams earn very serious money, and the logic is simple. You're paying not for muscles, but for the fact that at the strangest moment, when the crowd starts pushing, someone will already be one step ahead. Number 5. Rihanna, security fit for $1 billion brand. Rihanna isn't just an artist, she is an empire, where music is only a part. And when you have a brand like Fenty and capital counted not in hundreds of thousands, but in very large categories, security becomes as necessary as lawyers and accountants. After stories with stalkers and obsessive fans, many stars increase their security. But for Rihanna, it feels like a system overhaul. Cameras, technology, strict access, a constant team. Such stories often mention figures like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and that's not luxury. That's the cost of being able to go out in public calmly, not living with the thought, who will decide to cross the line today? And the most interesting thing, sometimes it's security that creates the footage that goes viral. A bodyguard jokingly picking someone up, shielding from flashes, leading in such a way that the crowd doesn't even understand how the star disappeared. And that's the whole point. Ideally, you shouldn't see security working. Number 4. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He himself was a bodyguard. Here's an unexpected twist. Before becoming one of Hollywood's highest paid people, Johnson worked as a bodyguard himself. And that explains a lot. When a man nearly 2 meters tall, weighing around 120 kilograms, with wrestling experience stands next to you, he doesn't argue. He creates silence just by his presence. In the late 90s, Johnson protected stars and worked where nightclubs could turn into chaos in seconds. And now imagine, today he is the face of movies, ads, projects, and his own security is no longer a couple of guys, but a team capable of handling thousands of people at premieres and big shows. For The Rock, security isn't a formality but part of his lifestyle, and that's logical. He is too noticeable, too popular, too in the frame always, which means security is a way to maintain control over a life that people constantly try to touch with their hands. Number 3. Jeff Bezos, a technological fortress worth billions. When you're the founder of Amazon and a person with wealth that sounds like fantasy, your security isn't a bodyguard at the door. It's a multi-layered system combining technology, people, and protocols. Such teams usually include dozens of specialists. Some work in the field, some analytically, some as technical protection. Public stories have revealed details like expensive office security upgrades and constant threat monitoring. And the point here is one: people at this level face different risks. It's not just fans, it's reputational attacks, blackmail, cyber threats, attempts to violate privacy. Therefore, a billionaire's security is almost a hybrid of a special service and an IT department, where muscles aren't important, but information is. Number 2. Chris Brown, the team that holds the perimeter. Chris Brown's security works as a constant barrier, not because it's fashionable, but because there's always a lot of noise around his name. Tours, clubs, stage, public appearances, and at every step, the risk that someone wants to create their own story. Such teams rarely publicize names and faces. Their strength is in discipline and coordination, not one hero, but several people who cover angles, control movement, divide the crowd into sectors, and don't let it close in. Sometimes security here is like insurance for $1 million concert. If chaos happens, not only the person suffers, but also the show, the venue, the business. So their task is to keep everything within bounds. Number 1. Taylor Swift, security that costs as much as a business. This is the level where security turns into a separate industry. In 2017, a strange rumor spread across the web that Taylor Swift was supposedly smuggled out of New York, hidden in a large trunk or suitcase. The internet, as always, exploded with memes. Can't be. What kind of spy movie? But behind this funny picture is a serious reality. Taylor's security is one of the most expensive in the industry. When you have tours, stadiums, fan bases worldwide, you're protecting not only yourself, but a giant machine, staff, schedules, routes, contracts, and the money swirling around every concert. Such systems often use everything, from armored cars and dummy routes to a tight flank of several bodyguards next to the artist. Plus technology, early threat detection, access control, space monitoring. And here's the main question for the viewer that always works. If you had that kind of money and fame, would you skimp on security? Because in this world, security isn't an expense. It's an investment in ensuring tomorrow comes calmly at all.
This is what the flip side of luxury looks like. Yachts, villas, stadiums, millions in accounts, and next to them, people who stand between the dream and danger. Who would you choose as your bodyguard? The biggest, the most unnoticeable, or the most technological? Write in the comments. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, and choose the next video on the screen. See you!